Welcome to this lecture, short lecture about the essentials of verbal communication, particularly oral communication. Now, the essentials of verbal communication are several, and we can find these very helpful in not only our professional life but also our personal life. The first of these is pronunciation. Pronunciation is very important in communication, and it is important that we understand the proper pronunciation of the words that we use in verbal, particularly oral communication, for our communication to be effective. The second one is brevity. In our communication, it is important that we are as brief and concise as possible. We have to remember that over communication may lead the message to be missed or to be lost in verbosity and distraction. So it is important that we always communicate in a brief manner. The third is precision. In verbal or oral communication, it is important to communicate clearly and in a straightforward manner. We have to avoid being vague. I can give you an example. Submit this assignment early next week. That is not precise. In oral or verbal communication, it is clearer and more precise to say, submit this assignment by Monday, 7 p.m. That is precise. It is not vague. Number 4 is conviction. It is important that when you are speaking, you are convinced of what you are speaking and what you are communicating. You need to show that you have belief and are confident with what you are speaking and what you are communicating. Now, this means that we have to do some work. This can be done through sincerity of approach, using an approach that you are comfortable with, not an approach that you are not familiar with. You also have to do careful thinking and planning of what you are going to present. Thinking of how effective it will be, both for you and for those that you are communicating with. You have to do careful analysis and objective evaluation of the message while you are formulating it, so that it can reach those that it has to reach in a very clear manner. Number 5 is logical sequence. It is important that the people who are receiving your oral or verbal communication receive the information with a flow. The information needs to flow so that the first things are said first, the second things are said second, and then the last things are said last, not interchanged. So there has to be the logical sequence of the information or the message, and it has to be planned very well. Number 6 is appropriate word choice. It is important that when you are using verbal communication, you choose words that you are familiar with and those that you are sure your listeners or your receivers of the information are also familiar with. You shouldn't try to confuse them unless the intention of the communication is to cause confusion. So you need to make sure that the word choice is proper. Number 7 is cultivating a natural voice through which you communicate. A voice that is pleasing to the listener, pleasing to the receiver of the information. Now, in doing this, we should avoid affected styles of speech. Affected styles of speech are where you are borrowing. A form of speech that you are not used to. You are Ugandan and you want to borrow a style that is American. It may mess you up. Number 8, I guess, or 9, to find the right register. It is important that when you are communicating, you should know your audience. According to Mount, in his book, Practical Communication for Managers, he says that a good oral communicator is one who turns into the learner's wavelength by subtly and perhaps unconsciously adjusting his or her vocabulary, loudness, speech of delivery, and accent to meet with their receivers. So we need to understand the categories of people that we are speaking to, that we are communicating to. The way you communicate to children in nursery school is not the same way that you will communicate to students at the university. The way you communicate with students in the university in their first year is not the same way that you will communicate with students pursuing their PhD, for example. There will be variations. So how do you pick the vocabulary and the concepts to use at a particular level so that you can effectively be understood? That is very important in oral communication. And if you like this, please subscribe to this channel. And if you are interested in helping a friend to learn a little bit more about oral communication, verbal communication, you can share with them.